Hi, my wife just gave me a new piece of cast iron cookware for Father's Day. Now, I know that many of y'all already cook with cast iron. I love my current cast iron cookware, but when you have a new piece, you always have to season it. Now, many of you may not have any cast iron. Many of you are thinking of getting some. Maybe some of you have just gotten your first piece and you don't know how to season it, especially if it's the Lodge brand, because that's the most popular brand to buy, and they tell you that it comes pre-seasoned. Don't necessarily believe that it's ready to cook on right now. First thing you need to do is wash it. I've already done that, and I'm going to be sticking it into the oven, and we're going to let it kind of dry out for the next 10 minutes. During that process, it's also going to be opening the pores of the steel, getting it ready for the oil that's going to be seasoning it. So I'm Ralph. Welcome to my kitchen. Let's get started. I'm going to be putting this into the oven at 350 degrees for the next 10 minutes. Now you'll notice I've put aluminum foil in down below where the pan is going to be, because when we get to the seasoning part and it's covered in oil, it might drip some. So that's a very important thing to do. So close that up, set my timer for 10 minutes, and I'll see you then. Time is up. Time to take the cast iron skillet out of the oven, and we're going to be letting that cool down to get it closer to room temperature. And at that point, we're going to start adding the seasoning oil to it. So as soon as this cools down, I will meet you at the other station. Okay, the pan has cooled down enough for me to be able to start the seasoning process. Now I'm using avocado oil. Basically any kind of cooking oil that you're going to be cooking with is probably going to be a good choice. I've seen suggestions of people using olive oil, bacon grease, lard, grapeseed oil, lots of different choices out there, even flaxseed oil. But basically, if you're going to be cooking with it, that's probably a good choice for you to use. Now I put a little bit in here. You can see about how much. Got a paper towel. I'm going to be spreading this around. Make sure you're hitting all of the surfaces with this. Get it right up the edge. Do the handles. Do the bottom. Now you might ask yourself, why am I doing the bottom of the pan if I'm only cooking on the inside? That is a great question. Here is an answer. Because you're going to have some things that are going to spill over. You're going to have just the air in the atmosphere. That's why we have dehumidifiers that eventually could start causing rust. Now, do you need to season it every time you season it? Probably not. You can probably get by with just seasoning the outside, like maybe every fourth time, and that would be fine. Now, you'll notice I put the oil on and spread it around with a paper towel, but I'm using a microfiber cloth. You could use like an old t-shirt, something like that, something clean, and that's not going to be leaving a lot of lint. You want to make sure that you're not having any pooling or anything like that, any buildup in here before we stick it back into the oven. You do not want it to be able to form any gunk in there, because that's going to cause it to be a sticky pan. You do not want to be doing this only to wind up getting a sticky pan. So we've got this good and wiped down. Now it's going into the heat. I've got that oven at 350 degrees, and back in it goes. Here we are, going back in, and it's going to stay in the oven for about the next hour. So I will see you then. Okay, so I've just pulled this out and had a chance to let it cool down. It's looking pretty good, but now time for a second coat of the avocado oil. Putting a little dollop in, doesn't take very much. Get that swirled around. Make sure you're getting it up in the edges here of the the inside of the pan. Got the handle again, the outside. Now I noticed it did not look like I was putting it on for very thick, but as I'm using the cloth to wipe it down, I noticed that there were some pretty thick spots. And that's exactly why we're putting it in upside down. So as that oil heats up, if it is on there a little bit thick, it will be dripping down onto that foil that we put down below it in the oven. So that's about it for another coat here. Just give it one more real quick wipe down because we do not want it to have those thick spots. You do not want to have that gunk because it will cause sticking issues. And back into the oven. In for another hour. See you then. Okay, I have taken the cast iron skillet out of the oven. It's cooled down. I am now about to put on the third and hopefully last application of the oil before it is fully seasoned. So I'm going to put a couple of dollops into the pan just like we did before, working it all in, into all the nooks and crannies of the pan, the crevices, wiping it off, kind of looking at this almost like I'm buffing, like you're buffing a car. See, if you look in here, you might be able to see that there's too much in there. That's why we're taking this microfiber cloth and trying to wipe all that out. So just a very, very thin layer is left in there to be baked into the surface. Time to put it back into the oven, hopefully for the last time. And again, upside down. Into the oven we go. See you in about an hour. Okay, I've just pulled this out of the oven just a short while ago. This is what it's looking like. I don't know if this camera is going to find enough detail. It feels pretty slick, but you know, the Lodge cast iron seemed to have a kind of a rough surface. Now there is a way to get rid of that. I did not go into that during this show, but you can actually take like a hand sander with like some 60 or 80 grit sandpaper and sand that down a little bit. You don't have to take it all off, but you can smooth it out and then start this process from scratch. But you might have to do more than 3 seasonings like we did today. But that is a possibility. But I think this is going to work out great. Okay, that does it for today's show. I hope you liked it. If so, consider giving me a like down below, maybe a subscription, and I will see y'all next time. Bye-bye.